Umavangala Thakura said, Mukti Swayam Mukund, Mukundi, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Mukul Mukul Lintajali Sevata Sman Dharmartha Kama Gataya Samaya Patriksa. Liberation always stands at the door of a devotee, ready to carry out his orders. Material advancement in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation simply waits to serve a devotee at the first opportunity. A devotee is already in a transcendental position. He does not need further qualifications to be liberated. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Sagunam Samatityaitan Brahmabhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee is transcendental to the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature because he is situated in the Brahman platform. Prahlada Maharaj said, Agunena cha kankshitena. If one is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he does not need anything in terms of dharma, artha, kama, or moksha. In Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, in the beginning of the transcendental literature, it is said, Dharma prochita kaitavatra. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha are kaitava, false and unnecessary. Nirmatsaranam satam. Persons who are completely transcendental to the material activities of separateness, who make no distinction between mine and yours, but who simply engage in the devotional service of the Lord, are actually fit to accept Bhagavata Dharma, Dharmam Bhagavatam Iha, because they are nirmatsarana, not jealous of anyone. They want to make others, they want to make other devotees, even their enemies. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya remarks, Kanksate moksha gam api sukham na kankshato yata. Devotees are not desirous of any material happiness, including the happiness derived from the liberation. That is called anya bilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Karmis desire material happiness, and jnanis desire liberation. But a devotee does not desire anything. He is simply satisfied by rendering transcendental loving service at the lotus feet of the Lord and glorifying him everywhere by preaching, which is his life and soul. Wow, isn't that nice? Very, very nice statement. Text 26. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification. These are described in the Vedas as trivargya, and three ways to salvation. Within these three categories are education and self-realization, ritualistic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunctions, logic, the science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. These instructions of Prahlada Maharaj stress the transcendental positions of devotional service as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam chayovi bicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitat brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. One who fully engages in the devotional service of the Lord is immediately raised to the transcendental position, which is the Brahma Bhuta stage. Any education or activity not on the Brahma Bhuta platform, the platform of self-realization, is considered to be material, and Prahlad Maharaj says that anything material cannot be the absolute truth. Wow, that's an amazing statement. For the absolute truth is on the spiritual platform. This is also confirmed by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 2.45, where he says, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. To act on the material platform, even if one's activities are sanctioned by the Vedas, is not the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is to stay on the spiritual platform, fully surrendered to the Parama Purusha, the Supreme Person. This is the object of the human mission. In summary, the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and injunctions are not to be discounted. They are a means of being promoted to the spiritual platform. But if one does not come to the spiritual platform, the Vedic ceremonies are simply a waste of time. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8. Dharma svanustita pumsam vishwaksena katasuya nat padayed yati ratim shama eva kevalam. Duties, or dharma, executed by men, regardless of occupation, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the Supreme Lord. If one very strictly performs the various duties of religion, but does not ultimately come to the platform of surrendering to the Supreme Lord, his methods of attaining salvation or elevation are simply a waste of time and energy. Text 27. Okay. Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, formally explained this transcendental knowledge to the great saint Narada. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narada, but everyone who has taken shelter of Narada's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is stated here that this confidential knowledge is extremely difficult to understand, yet it is very easy to understand if one takes shelter of a pure devotee. This confidential knowledge is also mentioned at the end of Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam saranam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This knowledge is an extremely confidential secret, but it can be understood if one approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the bona fide agent, the spiritual master, in the disciplic succession from Narada. Prahlada Maharaj wanted to impress upon the sons of the demons that although such knowledge can be understood only by a saintly person like Narada, they should not be disappointed. For if one takes shelter of Narada instead of material teachers, this knowledge is possible to understand. Understanding does not depend upon high parentage. The living entity is certainly pure on the spiritual platform, and therefore, anyone who attains the spiritual platform by the grace of the spiritual master can also understand this confidential knowledge. Text 28. Prahlada Maharaj continued, I received this knowledge from the great Saint Narada Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called Bhagavata Dharma, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. Text 29 and 30. The sons of the demons replied, Dear Prahlada, neither you nor we know any teacher or spiritual master other than Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya. After all, we are children, and they are our controllers. Let's see. After all, we are children, and they, I guess they're missing they are our controllers. For you especially, who always remains within the palace, it is very difficult to associate with great personalities. Dear friend, most gentle one, would you kindly explain how it is possible for you to hear Narada? Kindly dispel our doubts on this regard. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the seventh chapter, seventh canto, sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prahlada Instructs His Demoniac Schoolmates. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we're going to go to the next. Yeah. What Prahlada learned in the womb. Does somebody else want to read? Anyone? Abi wants to read.
In this chapter, to dissipate the doubts of his class friends, the sons of the demons, Prahlad Maharaj states how, within the womb of his mother, he had heard from the mouth of Narada Muni, who had instructed him in Bhagavata Dharma. When Hiranyakashipu left his kingdom and went to the mountain known as Mandarachala to execute severe austerities, all the demons scattered. Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu, was pregnant at the time, and the demigods, mistakenly thinking that she carried another demon in her womb, arrested her. Their plan was that as soon as the child took birth, they would kill him. While they were taking Kayadu to the heavenly planets, they met Narada Muni, who stopped them from taking her away and took her to his ashrama until Hiranyakashipu's return. In Narada Muni's ashrama, Kayadu prayed for the protection of the baby in her womb, and Narada Muni reassured her and gave her instructions on spiritual knowledge. Taking advantage of those instructions, Prahlad Maharaj, although a small baby within the womb, listened very carefully. The spirit soul is always apart from the material body. There is no change in the spiritual form of the living entity. Any person above the bodily conception of life is pure and can revive transcendental knowledge and receive transcendental knowledge. This transcendental knowledge is devotional service. In Prahlad Maharaj, while living in the womb of his mother, received instruction in devotional service from Narada Muni. Any person engaged in the service of the Lord through the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master is immediately liberated. And being free from the clutches of Maya, he is relieved of all ignorance and material desires. The duty of everyone is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord and thus become free from all material desires. Regardless of the material condition in which one is situated, one can achieve this perfection. Devotional service is not dependent on the material activities of austerity, penance, mystic yoga, or piety. Even without such assets, one can achieve devotional service through the mercy of a pure devotee.
So that's proof that a child can be educated in the womb of the mother, because the child is in the womb of the mother. The child hears what the mother is saying and other people are saying. So that's very, very interesting to know that as soon as Prahlad was born, he was already educated. Okay, so anybody else want to read?
Text 1. Narada Muni said, although Prahlada Maharaja was born in a family of Asuras, he was the greatest of all devotees. Having thus been questioned by his class friends, the sons of Asuras, he remembered the words spoken to him by me and replied to his friends as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When he was in the womb of his mother, Prahlada Maharaja listened to the words of Narada Muni. One cannot imagine how the baby in embryo could hear Narada, but this is the spiritual life. Progress in spiritual life cannot be obstructed by any material condition. This is called Ahaituki Apratihata. Reception of spiritual knowledge is never checked by any material condition. Thus Prahlada Maharaja from his very childhood, spoke spiritual knowledge to his class friends, and certainly it was effective, although all of them were children.
Text 2. Prahlad Maharaja said, when our father Hiranyakashipu went to Mandarachala mountain to execute severe austerities, in his absence the demigods, headed by King Indra, made a severe attempt to subdue all the demons in warfare.
Text 3. Alas, as a serpent is eaten by small ants, so the troublesome Hiranyakashipu, who always inflicted miseries upon all types of people, has now been defeated by the reaction of his own sinful activities. Saying this, the demigods, headed by King Indra, arranged to fight the demons.
Text 4 and 5. When the great leaders of the demons, who were being killed one after another, saw the unprecedented exertion of the demigods in fighting, they began to flee, scattering themselves in all directions. Simply to protect their lives, they hastily fled from their homes, wives, children, animals, and household paraphernalia. Paying no heed to all these, the demons simply fled.
Text 6. The victorious demigods plundered the palace of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, and destroyed everything within it. Then Indra, king of heaven, arrested my mother, the queen.
Text 7. As she was being led away, crying in fear like a kurari captured by a vulture, the great sage Narada, who at that time had no engagement, appeared on the scene and saw her in that condition.
Text 8. Narada Muni said, O Indra, king of the demigods, this woman is certainly sinless. You should not drag her off in this merciless way. O greatly fortunate one, this chaste woman is the wife of another. You must immediately release her.
Uh, Text number 9. King Indra said, in the womb of this woman, the wife of the demon Hiranyakasipu, is the seat of that great demon. Therefore, let her remain in our custody until her child is delivered, and then we shall release her. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Indra, the king of heaven, decided to arrest Prahlad Maharaj's mother because he thought that another demon, another Hiranyakasipu, was within her womb. The best course, he thought, was to kill the child when the child was born, and then the woman could be released.
Text 10. Text 10. Narada Muni replied, the child within this woman's womb is faultless and sinless. Indeed, he is a great devotee, a powerful servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you will not be able to kill him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There have been many instances in which demons or non-devotees have attempted to kill a devotee, but they have never been able to destroy a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord promises in Bhagavad Gita 9.31, Kaunteya prati janti name prati janihi name bhakta paranasyati. This is a declaration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that his devotee cannot be killed by demons. Prahlad Maharaja is the vivid example of the truth of this promise. Narada Muni told the king of heaven, it would be impossible for you to kill the child, even though you are demigods, and certainly it would be impossible for others.
Text 11. One translation. When the great sage Narada Muni had thus spoken, King Indra, being respectful to Narada's words, immediately released my mother. Because of my being of a devotee of the Lord, all the demigods circumambulated her. Then they returned to their celestial kingdom. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although King Indra and the other demigods are exalted personalities, they were so obedient to Narada Muni that King Indra immediately accepted Narada Muni's words concerning Prahlad Maharaj. This is called understanding by the Parampara system. Indra and the demigods did not know that a great devotee was in the womb of Kayadu, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, but they accepted the authoritative statements of Narada Muni and immediately offered their respects to the devotee by circumambulating the woman in whose womb he was living. To understand God and the devotee by the Parampara system is the process of knowledge. There is no need to speculate about God and his devotee. One should accept the statements of a bona fide devotee and thus try to understand.
Prahlad Maharaj continued, the great saint Narada Muni brought my mother to his ashrama and assured her of all protection, saying, my dear child, please remain at my ashrama until the arrival of your husband. Text 13. After accepting the instructions of Devarsi Narada, my mother stayed in his care, without fear from any direction, as long as my father, the king of the Daityas, had not become free from his severe austerities. My mother, being pregnant, desired the safety of her embryo and desired to give birth after her husband's arrival. Thus she stayed at Narada Muni's ashram, where she rendered service unto Narada Muni with great devotion. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.19.17, Matra Swasra duhitra va na vi vik ksha sano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam api karsati. One should not remain in a secluded place with a woman, even one's mother, sister, or daughter. Nonetheless, although one is strictly prohibited from staying with a woman in a secluded place, Narada Muni gave shelter to Prahlad Maharaj's young mother, who rendered service to him with great devotion and faith. Does this mean that Narada Muni transgressed the Vedic injunctions? Certainly he did not. Such injunctions are intended for mundane creatures. I like that, creatures. He doesn't say people. But Narada Muni is transcendental to mundane categories. Narada Muni is a great saint and is transcendentally situated. Therefore, although he was a young man, he could give shelter to a young woman and accept her service. Haridas Thakur also spoke with a young woman, a prostitute, in the dead of night, but the woman could not deviate his mind. Instead, she became a Vaishnavi, a pure devotee, by the benediction of Haridasa Thakur. Ordinary persons, however, should not imitate such highly elevated devotees. Ordinary persons must strictly observe the rules and regulations by staying aloof from the association of women. Not one should imitate Narada Muni or Haridas Thakur. It is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigne Na Bujhaya. Even if a man is very advanced in learning, he cannot understand the behavior of a Vaishnava. Anyone can take shelter of a pure Vaishnava without fear. Therefore, in the previous verse, it has been directly said, Devarser antike sakutobaya. Kayadu, the mother of Prahlad Maharaja, stayed under the protection of Narada Muni without fear from any direction. Similarly, Narada Muni, in his transcendental position, stayed with the young woman without fear of deviation. Narada Muni, Haridasa Thakur, and similar acharyas, especially empowered to broadcast the glories of the Lord, cannot be brought down to the material platform. Therefore, one is strictly forbidden to think that the acharya is an ordinary human being or gurusu naramati. Well, see, this is a very important statement here. Traditionally, one should not be alone with a woman. However, there are some exceptions. Those are pure devotees who are not at all attracted to the body of a woman. They're concerned with teaching and preaching. But this is something that everyone can't do. So we shouldn't think that we can do it. It's better to be on the safe side and always have at least 2 or 3 people with you when you are with women. See? That's the safe side. If you think that you're on the level of Narada Muni, you can very easily fall down. So it's better to be safe than to be sorry. That is our takeaway from today. It's better to be safe than sorry. So always avoid being alone with a woman. Text 15.